Pastor Mark and Grace here with the Real Marriage Podcast. I forgot to hit record. It was amazing. And then realized I did not hit the button. I'm on this side. This is me. That's Grace. I hope you can tell the difference. If not, need to call 911 immediately. We're going to talk about, maybe if it's okay with you, a two-part series on how to enjoy the holidays. The first episode today will be how to enjoy the holidays with your spouse and your kids, your immediate family. The next episode will be how to enjoy the holidays with your extended family. And so by way of context, we have been married more than 30 years. How did we do early on? Did we thumbs up, thumbs down, dumpster fire, complete bliss, Thanksgiving and Christmas, the holiday season? How did we do as a newly married couple before we had kids?
Not well. We learned the hard way.
Yeah, I would say we were rather terrible at it. And then adding kids made it more complicated.
Yes.
Because now the kids have needs or sickness or school activities or what have you.
Makes it more challenging to enjoy because there's so much going on.
Well, and the kids all have different personalities, so they all want to do different things. And
when you don't have money,
Yeah, we were broke.
Gotta get creative.
Yeah, we were broke. And then today we have 5 kids, 3 of whom are married, 2 that are college age, and we now have 4 grandchildren. So we've got your mom, your dad has gone home to be with the Lord. We've got my folks, and your mom and my folks are awesome. And then we've got, our kids and their spouses and the 4 grandkids. So now we're looking at 4 generations for the holidays, which is a lot of people and personalities to coordinate. So let's start with how to enjoy the holidays with your spouse and your kids. And we're differentiating. There's a book on the shelf there, Leave and Cleave. There's an entire sermon series where we talk about when you obey Genesis, you leave your father and mother, you cleave to your spouse, to your wife. That is differentiating. It's leaving your family to go start a new family. So our big statement is always, you didn't join my family, I didn't join your family. We left our families to go start a new family that is extended family.
We actually didn't do that.
Yeah,
and
we
that's
sucked
why
at
we
that.
had problems.
Yeah.
So now that we see that that's actually the way God says to
and what
leave
Grace
cleave.
means by that is she didn't do that. So I forgive you. Usually the daughter, I think sometimes the daughter has a harder time differentiating. And
unless it's a mama's boy.
Yeah.
That's
We'll
really
do a whole
challenging.
series of episodes on that failure. So going into the holidays from the wife and let's say the mom's perspective with kids, what are the additional pressures that you were facing and are to some degree still facing heading into the holiday season, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas? What are the pressures on you?
Well, I didn't train the kids super well to participate in...
Or the husband.
Yeah, that's true.
How much laundry have I done?
I don't know. How much laundry have you
0.
done?
Since
Okay.
college.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was the early 90s.
Okay, we're talking about the holidays.
Transferred out to my college, and you'd come pick up my laundry when we were dating and then bring it back. And I felt...
I was an enabler.
And I am grateful for that. So thank you.
So I didn't do a great job of training the kids how to help during the holidays. And so I just tried to do it all myself, which created chaos for me and for them because I was stressed out. I also had very high standards of making everything from scratch. Every piece of food, every, thing that we decorated the house with had to be a certain way. So my standards were not joyful for everyone.
They got harder to maintain as we added children.
Yes.
We had 5 kids 2 years apart. Every other year somebody showed up.
Mm-hmm. So I think, I needed to just relax and start with how can we enjoy each other? How can we have moments in our marriage where we're enjoying each other amidst the chaos? Then how can we enjoy each of our kids and help them feel celebrated, but also help them participate in why we're even celebrating? What is Christmas about? Making sure that we're not so frazzled that we miss the whole meaning of Christmas. And Jesus died for all those sins, thankfully, after he was born. So the birth of Jesus is essential in our walk with Jesus. And so we need to understand that. We need to help our kids understand that. We need to be reminded of. We need to pause and just be thankful for that God came as a man. And so those were the things that I needed to prioritize. And it took some time. It took some failures in the first years, just even as a married couple. I had depended on my mom and my side of the family to do holiday stuff, planning.
Food preparation, hosting, all of that.
We would go away with my extended family after Christmas. It was just assumed, and it was really our only break during the year at that time in ministry. And so we just went with it until we realized this isn't working. We can't just take that only time and spend it with extended family. I love them, but we needed to have traditions of our own as we were starting our family. And so it really became harder the further we went into the years to cut off some of those previous traditions with my side of the family. And so I would recommend doing it as soon as possible. You can always go back and do those things when you want to, but if it's an expectation and you're just doing it because it's always been done that way, I would really challenge you to, sit down as a couple, pray through it, talk through what's actually restful, joyful, and then start that tradition for your couple.
Yeah, and there's two ways that we get into the extended family in the next episode, but there's two ways that extended family make it hard. One, they're just really dysfunctional, broken, rude, ungodly, complicated. There's addiction. That can be really hard to navigate. Or they're awesome and they love you and they enjoy you and they're good to you and they just want as much time as possible, but you want time with your own immediate family and you don't want to be rude to them and you don't want to cut them off, but you also want to differentiate and say, well, we have some time with you, we have some time with us. And so part of it, even for us now, like your parents loved us and love our kids, my parents love us and love our kids. Mm-hmm. Both sets of grandparents get 2 thumbs up. They were awesome to their grandkids. I mean, the grandkids know their grandparents and we're very blessed by them. And so ours wasn't negative or bad. It was like they would just hang out with us and the kids all the time if they could. And we loved them and they were good to us, but we also needed to have like our own traditions. Yeah. And so mom's got a lot going on going into the holidays. For mom as well, kids are off school. Mm-hmm. So now it's a whole different dynamic in the home. Usually, depending upon where you live, the weather's not great, so the boys are stuck inside. Yeah. Usually, around that time, somebody gets a cold and passes it around, so you're dealing with sick kids.
Yes.
Hope they're not throwing up. And then mom, usually, at least in our dysfunctional family, where apparently I don't do things, you would do all the Christmas shopping. Mm-hmm. And the gift buying and the gift wrapping. And so you've got little kids and entertaining and food and, all this stuff. And then for dad, usually most men around the holidays, and this is where having a conversation between you, if you're married, is like...
Not in the heat of
Not in the heat of the moment. Just, okay, going into the holidays this year, like, what is it like for you and what are the hard parts and how can I help? And for dad, usually... It's double down at work. He's usually got really hard year-end deadlines. He's got obligations, budgets due, performance reviews if you're in management. In addition, usually dad's trying to get some time off work, but that means he's got to get double his work done to get the time off. And so he's really feeling the pressure and the pinch. For me, I preached on Christmas Eve for more than 30 years. Mm-hmm. So even like for those of us who are in ministry, like you're a single mom on Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas Eve, and I'm working. And then you add to it, for most men, that's the time of year that you're spending the most money. And so there's the financial stress can come upon the family as well.
For sure.
So just being aware and sensitive that mom is carrying and wife is carrying her load, dad and husband is carrying his load, and to have a conversation before you're frustrated and blowing up, or before you get to the holidays and you're just disappointed. Mm-hmm. One of the things I started doing years ago, I actually started a file on my laptop because Thanksgiving would come and I forgot what sucked about last Thanksgiving. And then I'd remember like, oh, I like cream corn and a nap, and I didn't get either. And I still like cream corn and a nap.
He always wanted fudge at Christmas, and I never knew, and I can't eat chocolate, so it was just like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, you'd be like, go fudge yourself. I was like, hey, I need fudge for Christmas. This is my love language. My mom always made fudge. I prefer it with nuts, but if it doesn't have nuts, I'll still eat it. So you have 2 fudge options, but no fudge is not an option. So yeah, just these things. We've all got our quirks.
And I don't do Santa. And
oh my
so,
gosh.
yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh, my wife hates Santa.
I don't hate Santa.
No,
I like the I like the real Santa.
You hate Santa at a cellular level.
I like the real Santa and the story of the real
Saint Nicholas. He was a bishop. He argued for the Trinity. He loved Jesus. But you don't like Santa.
I don't like the commercialism.
No.
Correct.
You do. Oh my gosh. No. Jesus Miracles, my latest sermon series and study guide. Jesus performed around 33 miracles as written in the Bible, 4 categories: removing demons, ruling over nature, restoring health, and one that I forget. But you can find it all in the study guide. It's about 130 pages, and this is really, honestly, the most difficult study guide that I've ever written. It's taking a lot of Jesus' words and works and compiling them into a simple, readable format, and so I'm really excited to get this resource into your hands.
So we had to find these things out in our
marriage. The hard way.
marriage.
Yeah, Santa's a trigger word at our house.
Fudge and Santa. Like, no Santa, yes fudge.
Yes, we had to figure these things out. And so I started a file like what worked and didn't work for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and I've added to it over the years. Now it's longer than the book of Isaiah, but it's really insightful and helpful.
I think we've had to use burning coal as well.
Yeah. So here would be our recommendation going into the holidays. Don't just assume it's going to suck and have this low-level depression and bitterness that sets in advance.
It literally is bitterness that sets in.
Yeah.
And then it ruins everything. And you're putting it into your kids.
And into your home. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like farting in an elevator. Now we all got to deal with it. You know, if you got a bad attitude and you're the husband or wife, you know, you just set the culture and tone of the home. And so if you're grumpy, bitter, jaded, frustrated, you know, not looking forward to it. What? I'm talking about the 90s here.
Sounds like you're really familiar with these things.
Yeah. Yeah. You know you've healed when you can laugh about it in a podcast. So 3 things we would recommend. Pray, plan, pivot. Okay? Pray. How can they be praying for each other and with each other going into the holidays?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, be aware. Consider one another. The scriptures tell us to do that as husband and wife, to consider one another. So be aware of the husband's work schedule, the wife's work schedule, the busyness at home, the things that are ramping up.
The additional responsibilities.
And pray about those things. Pray that you would have supernatural strength to do those responsibilities that you each need to do, because they still need to get done. Pray that you would have a joyful attitude, rejoice in the Lord always, like Philippians 4 says. Pray that for each other, that you'd be able to rejoice, that God even gave you a job. He's given you a family. He's given you a spouse. He's given you children. An attitude of gratitude as you pray is super important to change your mindset. And so pray, rejoice in the things you can rejoice in. Pray for the things you can pray for each other, one another. Pray over each other. And then offer your requests to the Lord and trust him to guide you through the season.
And maybe just try. I'm not saying we're any good at it, but the things that you would normally fight over, maybe just say, hey, I'm really struggling with pressure at work. Could you pray for me and be praying for me? Hey, the kids are home from school, and I think the sons are all Bin Ladens. You know, they're just tiny terrorists, and they're wearing mom out. Could you whoop them and pray for me? You know, and just finding a way to take what you would normally argue over and be interceding for. How about plan? How important is it for husband and wife sit down and just look at November, December through the first of the year and just literally go through the calendar? Okay, what do we have for work activities, church activities, school activities? You know, immediate family, extended family, shopping time. We still need to get a date night in every week. Like, what are we going to do? Like, how important is it to actually get a joint shared calendar and just get into the details in advance?
It's very important for you And
and so it should be important for you.
So I am not a planner, which causes a lot of additional frustration.
She was late for this podcast.
So
it's in our house. It's in our house. The commute.
you need to consider the things and the responsibilities that I had to do before this.
I know.
Anyway, so yeah, I believe it is important to plan. My brain doesn't naturally want to plan. So I have to work extra hard to plan so that I don't bring that extra chaos into the holiday season or the life season. And so for you, sitting down together, working through, like you said, a calendar, these are the slotted times for shopping, for dating, for, going to this Christmas party. These are the kids' school performances, just getting it on a calendar that you can look at so that you're not double booking. It's so common to double book and then miss important things during the holidays. Excuse me, and you don't want to do that. And so really being intentional about getting that space to sit down, spend 30 minutes or whatever. It's
going to take more than that.
It'll save you tons of time later and tons of double booking.
And one of the things in the planning too, I like to sit the kids down and ask, what do you guys want to do this year? And, the boys usually when they were little, they're like, we want to go up to the mountains during break and go inner tubing in the snow. Okay, well, let's figure that out. The girls would be like, hey, I want to go to Christmas tea with mom or something. It's like, okay.
Or you'd take them to a
and the girls would be like, hey, I want to go on a daddy date where he goes bankrupt because we're going to get a dress, we're going to go ice skating, we're going to go out to a very nice dinner, we're going to order all the desserts, we're going to go watch the Nutcracker, we're going to go out and buy jewelry. And so we did that, and those are some of the favorite memories of my whole life. And I was the guy, take photos of everything, take videos of everything. I'm the make a memory dad. I have to have fun on the calendar and something to look forward to.
Well, and that's not just planning for the holidays. That's planning for your daughter's future spouse because you're training them how they should be taught by a man someday and not go to McDonald's.
Yeah, no, if he hands you a chicken nugget and then expects you to drive because he is above the DUI limit, that is not your guy. You don't even need to pray about it. And two, then the kids would come up with stuff like,
go to Christmas light, drive around for Christmas
get your pajamas on. We're going to drink hot chocolate and listen to Bing Crosby Christmas music and drive around and look at lights. And I love that. And there were certain places you could take the kids, like Christian camps that were all set up with carolers and horse rides and activities and all that stuff. And so it's like, It's so, like, I love all of that. So if there's like something fun to do, like I'm all about it. And so I love getting all that on the calendar. I'd be the guy looking, where are all the Christmas tree light displays? What are all the holiday activities? And I'd bring them to the family. You guys want to do this? You want to do this? You want to do this? You want to do that? Different kids have different personalities. I would record all the traditional classic Christmas shows, like the old school cartoons. And then for family movie night, we get our jammies on and we'd snuggle up on the couch and we'd watch classic Christmas shows. And so, for me, I want to look forward to it and I want to anticipate it and I want to have fun and memories on the calendar. And so pray, plan, and then pivot. If you are married or have kids, how often does the plan not work because something came up?
Often.
Usually.
Which is why I struggle with planning.
Well, you struggle with planning because then we have to pivot. And I'm like, well, it happens.
Yeah.
And so then the pivot is like, hey, one of the kids is sick. We can't do that. Grandma fell on the ice and broke her hip. So we got to go visit grandma. The grandparents were going to be flying in for Christmas, but they have a health problem. So now we got to last minute, do planes, trains, and automobiles and go see them. And so things just happen over the holiday season. Sometimes, too, things that you just didn't know. People didn't tell you, oh, this is when the work Christmas party is. You're like, it would have been nice to know more than 17 minutes before. And so it's pray so that you have the right attitude and you're communicating and you're interceding and you're understanding.
Yep.
Plan and include the kids in the planning process.
Yes.
And then pivot as needed. So when the kids were little, this was easier because they were little and they would do what we tell them. Then they get older. They get a driver's license. They, get engaged. They get married. They start their own family. They have their own kids. Yep. Now we're in the position of, okay, Do you guys want to come for Thanksgiving or not come for Thanksgiving? No offense taken. You're welcome either way. It's at our house. Christmas. Now that we have 4 families, our family, and then the 3 married couples are all families. Now we have 4 families. What would work for your families to get together, to open gifts, to hang out? Can we watch the grandkids? We'd love to see our kids, but even like, do you guys want to do a date? Do you want to do an overnight? Do you want to do a couple days away? Do you want us to take these beautiful grandkids and then maybe post holidays your marriage gets some time together?
Yeah.
It's having all of these conversations, but now that we're the older parents and the grandparents, it's coming with open hands and saying, how do we serve your family? Your family is now the priority. How do we work around what your family needs for its schedule and traditions, rather than saying, hey, we're older, she gave birth to you, and I fed you for a very long time, and you lived indoors because of me. Now you need to do exactly what we tell you, and here's your schedule for the holidays. If you do that, I think you'll embitter your kids and you'll push them away, and you'll teach them not to prioritize their marriage, their kids, and their family.
Yes. And they need to honor you in their responses and be respectful, but they do get to make a decision for their family. And that's what we train them to do. And it's actually a joy to watch them do it and learn how to have a healthy marriage and have a healthy family of their own. It's a really amazing thing to see, because that's what we pray for and wanted. And to be able to witness it is really cool.
Well, and like, if you don't come with demands, but you come to serve, not be served, to quote scriptures, that's the heart of Jesus. And to say, hey, when you were little, you worked around our schedule and we kind of made your schedule. Now you're an adult, like roles have reversed.
Yeah.
You get to, but what we found is our married kids, without divulging, they've got great marriages. They love their spouses. They're doing really, really great. It's so joyful to see.
Yes.
The 4 grandkids are amazing, and they've got wonderful parents, and they're super happy, wonderful kids. The first 4 are 14 months apart. How often do we see, how many days a week do we see one of our children or their spouse or one of our grandchildren?
At least twice a week, usually 3.
I would say at least half the days of the week we see one of the kids or grandkids.
Oh, yeah. Regularly.
So like we see them all the time, dinner, babysitting, hanging out, church, whatever.
Women's ministry, men's ministry.
Yeah, so so a lot of people are like, well, how do you, if you want time with your kids, you got to kind of push them and control them. And it's like, no, actually you need to love them and serve them. And if you're like, hey, our hands are wide open, then what you tend to find is they're like, well, if you're not going to like push me and shove me and make me and control me, I'll hang out with you and I'll bring my spouse and I'll bring our kids and we can have fun. And that way, if later on they decide we need to draw another boundary, or now that we got 3 kids instead of 1, we need more time, or our season of life is shifted, it's like, well, that's great, because we didn't write anything in permanent marker. Everything was in pencil, and these things can always be adjusted.
Yeah. And our parents did a good job of modeling this down the line. Once we started having kids and figuring out healthy boundaries and stuff, they really respected that, and I'm thankful for that. And so we're seeing the opportunity to do the same thing with our kids and grandkids, and yeah, we get more time with them than probably if we tried to plan a million days with them. So it's really sweet, even for moments, to see them at church and just use those moments to love on them and see how they're doing, and just enjoy the relationship.
Like, that's a good segue. Next episode will be how to enjoy the holidays with your extended family. And if that concept immediately causes you to think of firearms, you need to tune in for the next episode.